So, My Hero Academia manga chapter 324 has gotten translated, and let's just say this, I think in this chapter, we get the reveal of who the greatest hero is. Possibly. Maybe. We'll talk about that a little bit more right after this intro. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Man Drew, here to talk to you about My Hero Academia manga chapter 324 review titled A Child's Insistence. And yeah, children can be very insistent. I know, I was one at one moment in my life, surprisingly enough. But yes, when it comes to this chapter of My Hero Academia, we once again have a strong focus on Uraraka as she gives a riveting speech that motivates the people into finally being on Deku's side. Maybe. But there's something even more interesting about this chapter, not just pertaining to Uraraka and her flashback and her history and why she wants to be the hero to save other heroes. But in this chapter, we also recontextualize a main point that we saw at the beginning of My Hero Academia in chapter 1 when it comes to who's the greatest hero, and we may get confirmation of that in this chapter. So, we actually start off the flashback with a very familiar panel. It is the panel where we first get to see Uraraka and her flashback when it comes to why she wants to be a hero to save other heroes, if I remember correctly from the joint training arc. But when it comes to this chapter, we actually get to see it from a different perspective, getting to see how Uraraka is looking at people smiling while their parents are saying, hey, go look at the hero. Why are you looking at this random guy? So it's something that's going to be built on a little bit more in this chapter, and it's going to have a really great high point for that, and we're going to get to that soon. But from there, we are pretty much focusing on Uraraka and her speech and her inner dialogue as she's giving her speech. It's pretty much everything that we know, how she didn't like to view her parents as being exhausted, how she wanted to be a hero to make them happy. Even though she wanted to be a hero so that she could get more money, she thought that getting more money would make her parents happy, which ties into her larger idea of wanting to be a hero to make other people happy, as well as being a hero to save other heroes. So even though at first it seemed as if it was disconnected and she seemed to have a more petty desire, which at first it was, it actually does tie into the bigger scale of Uraraka and her character of wanting to be a hero to save other heroes and wanting to be a hero to make sure that everyone is able to smile. And by everyone, I mean everyone. And we'll get to that a little bit more. So yeah, we're getting to see more of the people turning towards Uraraka and the hero side as they finally look at Deku and realize, oh wow, this kid is really messed up. Even, once again, we get a focus on the Weasel Girl, and spoiler alert, she plays a bigger role at the end of the chapter, but we see that she's realizing that this boy, this kid, he was fighting for me, he saved me, and then he just kept on fighting. And as everyone is beginning to come to the side, you have this one guy with the All Might smile on his face that is just trying to screw everything up. He's like, wait, no. We were angry at the heroes. What are y'all doing? Like, no, we're gonna be angry. Like, yeah, I know this kid, yeah, he's badly beaten up, he's badly bruised, but like, what are you telling us? Are you telling us you want us to look exactly like him? Do you want us to be covered in like blood and mud? And Uraraka just shuts this dude down. It's like, no, we just want you. And Uraraka's like, no, we're just going to be the ones to shoulder the burden. We just want you to trust us. We're going to be the ones covered in blood and sweat. We just need time. And this dude is just, I just enjoy how in Uraraka's speech throughout the entire chapter, this one guy that we see, he just gets broken down. Like every point that he brings up is immediately like wrecked by Uraraka's reasoning. He's like, well, what about, well, yeah, I mean, but what about, so it's very funny to see it. And along with that person's reaction, we also get to see more of the reactions of the other characters in Class 1A. We see how they're very surprised by Uraraka's speech. And even Ida is chiming in about how Uraraka is doing all of this for them. She's fighting for them as well, as we once again get her inner dialogue as She's blushing, it's raining, she's yelling, she's getting flustered. And while she's thinking about this, we tie back into her main ideals. Her main goal is to make sure that she's in a world where everyone can smile. And she also brings up a reference, at least in this translation, referring to you, most likely referring to Deku. So not only does she want to see everyone smile, but she wants to also see Deku specifically smile as well, potentially tying into the fact that, you know, Uraraka still has a crush on Deku. That yes, she's doing all of this because she knows this is what she wants, and what she wants to see people smiling, but she's also probably kind of doing it because she has a crush on Deku. And we kind of tie into more of Deku and Uraraka's relationship, because potentially this could be the moment that Deku may be falling for Uraraka as well. So yeah, after we get a better understanding of what goes on in Uraraka's head, this is the moment where Deku yells out, "Uraraka-san!" Like I said, potentially having Deku having feelings for Uraraka, as we once again get Uraraka giving her speech once more again, as we see Uraraka giving her speech once again, telling them that everything is going to be not necessarily fine and that they cannot guarantee their safety, but they're also frightening, that even though they are heroes, they are still in the same circumstances as everyone else, as she's also once again saying this while also having an inner monologue about how just because they're heroes doesn't mean that they aren't afraid as well, that they are pretty much the same as the civilians they are trying to save when it comes to trying to fight the villains. The only difference is that they are the ones that are willing to fight for it. As we also get to see more images of heroes, specifically as we get to see Aizawa, who is still in bed, as we get to see Uraraka thinking about how when the heroes are in pain, who are there to save the heroes, and we kind of get that confirmation of who are going to be the heroes to save the other heroes. As we once again cut over to a flashback that we've seen before, but it has been expanded a little bit. As we have Uraraka, she's looking at the smiling faces of everyone else, and her father is telling him like, "Hey, what are you doing? The hero is over there." As we see that these two people are cheering for Eel Boy, who has taken down a villain, and as Uraraka turns to the heroes, we see that she sees Eel Boy smiling, and that just makes her lose it. And this is where we once again get more into her speech about how she's asking for everyone's full cooperation so that everyone can smile together, as we also get the inner monologue of we have to save the heroes, implying that the heroes that are there to save the heroes aren't necessarily the heroes themselves, but are the civilians that the heroes are helping. So basically, the ones that are going to save the heroes are the civilians, but the heroes are the ones that save the civilians. So it's going to be sort of this continuous circle of heroes saving the civilians and vice versa, civilians saving the heroes, which is very cool. And it ties into the idea that pretty much anyone can be a hero, and we see this idea come into play at the end of this chapter. Before we get into that, we do have a small moment where we get to see, as Uraraka is saying all of this, she may have a moment of hesitation, because as soon as she says she can't wait and that she wants tomorrow where everyone can smile together, she has this image of Toga appearing in her head, smiling and crying, as it looks as if she hesitates. And that is something that I can talk about a whole lot, but to sum it up, I think this may be the moment of confirmation where Uraraka becomes just like Deku, becomes just like Shoto, where she wants to be a hero that can save the villains, with Deku wanting to save Shigaraki, Shoto wanting to save his brother Dabi, and now Uraraka most likely wanting to save Toga. Because you know what? That plays into her ideas of how she wants to see everyone smiling, but she can't see everyone smiling if the villains aren't smiling themselves as well. So yeah, that is something that I'm probably going to talk about a little bit more in detail in a different video, but once again, we get to see Uraraka giving her speech. Literally, I'm just gonna tell you this, literally most of this chapter is just Uraraka speaking about how she just wants them to allow Deku to recuperate, as she wants Deku to heal, and that how when it comes to Midoriya, he is carrying this burden on his own. There's a lot that he needs to learn, but guess what? He's just an ordinary high schooler, and then you just have this one guy in the All Might shirt, once again, just trying to chime in, but like, and Uraraka finally shuts him up by just saying, "Let him stay here," as we get to see her say this with all of the passion in the world, and the next 2 pages are nothing but pure and utter like catharsis, as we get to see Deku reminiscing about the first moments that he met Uraraka, as we get the line that we saw at the end of chapter 1 about how this is the story of how I became the greatest hero. As we have Deku falling to the ground, as Uraraka just tells everyone to let him come back to the Hero Academia, please, as everyone sees Deku falling on the ground on his knees in this big double page spread, and immediately the next page we see a close-up of Deku crying, bawling his eyes out as we approach the end of this chapter, about how we get this one line about how this is, as we get to see the Weasel Girl running in, Nezu looking at the situation with a glint in its eye as he thinks about this is the one more step, as we have him thinking about how humanity struggles to make progress down this path, as we get to see that a potential someone has ran past Mandalay, as we get a flashback to a particular character looking at a particular red shoes, as it sees that it is Kota, as both Kota and the Weasel Girl come to Deku's aid, as we get the continuation of the end of This Is, as we have at the end of this chapter, this is the story how we all became the greatest heroes. End of chapter. Like I said, Weasel Girl did play a role at the end of this chapter, being the hero, being the person to save the other heroes. She and Kota are going to be the heroes to save Deku, as we see that they both jumped into the situation when someone is in danger to help. Just like how Deku jumped into the situation to save Kachan, how Bakugo jumped in at a moment's notice to save Deku, Ida jumped in to save Deku a few chapters ago, showing that everyone could in theory become the greatest hero, tying into the last thing that is said. And here's the thing, I'll probably also talk about this in another video as well, but I think this chapter may confirm that at this moment, Deku has become the greatest hero. And there's a difference between being the best hero and being the greatest hero. Deku, most likely in this chapter, becomes the greatest hero because he's doing all of this out of just not being selfish, doing this specifically to save people. He is probably the pinnacle of what it means to be a hero, but that still led him down a path of being self-destructive in the same vein as All Might. But it wasn't just down that destructive path that made him the greatest hero, it was the fact that Uraraka was also fighting there by his side to pave that path, and as soon as she paved that path, Deku, whether directly or indirectly, was able to walk down it to become the greatest hero. Meaning that technically, the Deku that we hear at the beginning of this story may not necessarily have been adult Deku. He assumed that it was adult Deku, but in actuality, it was just a Deku of a year or two ago, or a year or two in the future, and how he became the greatest hero then. But by him becoming the greatest hero, and the path being forged to make the greatest hero, now many other people can follow that path, both civilians and actual heroes, so that he may have been the first greatest hero, but he may not be the only greatest hero. So I could probably talk about that more in another video, and I probably will, but when it comes to this chapter of My Hero Academia, yeah, this was once again a very emotional chapter. The bombshell of Deku being revealed as the greatest hero, Uraraka's speech, the characterization more of Uraraka not as a character, but shining a better light on why she wanted to do what she did, why she wanted to be a hero, kind of explaining and putting into a different context why she wanted to be a hero to make money for her parents, not because she just wanted them to live just a better life, but she wanted to see them smile more, and she assumed that the money would actually do that. But in actuality, her just being a hero would do it completely, so getting more of that characterization for Uraraka was great. You could pretty much sum this chapter up as Uraraka saves Deku and makes him the greatest hero, as well as having Uraraka come to a realization that she wants to save people and make everyone smile, including Toga, including the villains, leading her down a similar path of Deku and Shoto being heroes to save the villains, which, you know, makes sense because heroes' main goal is to stop the villains and to save people's lives. And by stopping the villain, it doesn't mean that you kill them, but it means that you secure them. You make sure they don't do any harm, and you can do that by either beating them down or convincing them not to be villains anymore, and you'll still be a hero in that way. Overall, this chapter was just very emotional, very impactful for the characters of Uraraka and for Deku, and pretty much establishing and tying into what we've been building up for over 300 chapters of Deku becoming the greatest hero, and he becomes the greatest hero in this chapter, if the translations are to be believed, but that now that he's become the greatest hero, everything past this point is going to be building up a better hero society where everyone becomes the greatest hero. So yeah, that's pretty much all I really have to say about this chapter. If I missed anything or missed a little bit of context, leave a comment down below what I could have missed, because like I said, I'm going to have to make another video about the confirmation that Deku is pretty much the greatest hero, as well as Uraraka's connection in wanting to be the hero to save another villain in the same vein as Shoto and Deku. So yeah, leave your thoughts down in the comments down below. Leave a like on the video if you liked it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like this type of content, and hit that notification bell to be notified for whenever I upload more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!